Okay, good morning from Canada. Thank you for joining for our student development session today. My name's Joanna, if we've not met before, and it's my pleasure to guide you through part 2 of our sessions together. So I'm currently exploring Yin asana along with complementary aromatherapy essential oils that could complement the chakras. So in part 1, we delved into the root chakra, Muladhara, and the sacral chakra, Svadhisthana. So those are the two the first 2 chakras, root right at the tailbone, sacral between the navel and the pubic bone. So today, if you want to jump back and take a look at part 1, it is there for you. Today we're going to dive into the solar plexus chakra, so the space between the belly button and the kind of sternum here, so right in the diaphragm area. And then we will also look at the 4th chakra, the heart chakra, which of course is located right at the center of the chest by the heart. So feel free to participate, feel free to take notes, whatever works for you, and also feel free to leave questions relating to what I'm going to be talking about today. I'd love to hear from you. We'll dive in because last time I was running out of time. So let's begin with the solar plexus chakra. So this chakra, also known as Manipura, is the 3rd chakra. It is yellow in color, and it is the home of our will, our power, our confidence. It's quite masculine in energy. It is governed by the element of fire. And so often we tap into our solar plexus chakra when we are exploring power classes or vinyasa classes. It's very easy to access that space because we are challenging the body, we are strengthening the body, we are building stamina, we are being asked to hold shapes, to balance, we are building internal fire. So it's very common that the solar plexus chakra would be engaged in those types of classes. The same can be said for a yin practice. We can tap into our solar plexus chakra in that practice, even though yin is more feminine in quality, it is cooler, it is slower, which are not the qualities necessarily of the solar plexus chakra. It could be quite nice to address the class in terms of ways to balance the solar plexus chakra. So if a certain person is coming to your class feeling very fiery or irritated or frustrated, maybe they've had a challenging day, they're coming off the back of a difficult meeting, they might be feeling that kind of flustered, fiery energy within them. And then their yin practice and yin asana might be a way to kind of soothe and calm and slow down that space. So having said that though, you could also stimulate the solar plexus chakra by working with certain yin asana. So if people are feeling like that space is quite dormant, they're not feeling very confident, they're feeling a little lackluster, then you could incorporate certain yin postures that would help to stimulate and awaken that energy center. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards today when I show you some examples, is ways to create more awareness to that space and to maybe ignite that space from a yin point of view. If you were to look at it from the other angle, like you wanted to kind of cool and soothe the solar plexus chakra, you would definitely look at perhaps forward folding options like child's pose, Paschimottanasana, straddle, shapes where the front of the body starts to fall towards the earth, because that could help to counter all of that energy and exertion and fire that is going on for a certain person. So those would be nice complementary shapes for a person that's a little out of balance in that energy center. For those looking to stimulate that energy center, we would perhaps, firstly, let's look at the aromatherapy part, the oils I would use. So I personally love to use oils like lemongrass and sweet orange. A lot of the citrusy notes really work with the solar plexus chakra, because they are invigorating, they are joyful, they are refreshing, and they can be quite stimulating. So the sweet orange is one that I like because it's citrusy and it helps to disperse stagnant life force energy. So if somebody is feeling a little like lackluster or lethargic or in a place of inertia, then this might be a great oil to work with. It can also help with alleviating anxiety, stress, and tension, and to promote feelings of joy and positivity. And lemongrass I use because it is a very uplifting oil. It is invigorating and has that warming aroma that complements the fire element. And on an emotional level, lemongrass is beneficial for promoting a sense of well-being. It is energizing and it is refreshing. So if you were to use those oils in a yin practice, then I did mention this in the first video, but a few ways that you could do that is, first and foremost, get permission from your students. Let them know that this is the oil that you'd like to share with them, and would they be open to that? And then you can get raised hands, or you could have little cards on the mat that they could flip over if they wanted it or if they didn't want it. You also have to be very mindful about how you are sharing the oil. So a great option is to place the essential oil in a bottle with some filtered distilled water and use it as a mist. So you could spray the room rather than spraying directly onto a person. Another option would be, a friend of mine taught me this, was a little like tester stick, those little wooden sticks you can get them at the dollar store, and you could place a drop of the essential oil on the stick and give that to the students that want it. And then during the class, they can choose as and when they want to ingest, in terms of like sniff the oil, not physically digest, but sniff the oil. They might have it just at the top of the mat or near where their head is going to lie. They might have it either side of the mat and just bring it in for certain poses. So those are a few nice options, especially if your students are new to experiencing aromatherapy in practice. If your students are a little more accustomed to aromatherapy and enjoy that element, then you could start to explore the oil mixed with a carrier oil. So something like a plant-based oil like coconut or olive or avocado, jojoba, grapeseed, an oil that you could mix with your essential oil and then either make it into a roll-on or a massage oil that you could then apply to your students. That would come with experience and time and being comfortable, one, with hands-on touch and having your students full permission for that. Okay. So those are the oils. Let's get into some of the yin asana that I would recommend for activating this chakra. I'll meet you on the mat. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is Sphinx pose and some variations of Sphinx pose. This shape is, I've picked it for this chakra because it is lengthening and creating space in the front lines of the torso, as well as creating a compression in the back. So we are creating lots of space in the front, which is where this chakra is housed. So to come into Sphinx pose, let us come down onto our front body and place one hand on top of the other, untuck the toes, just relax that front body into the floor, forehead to your stacked hands. Now for some people this will be enough. This is a gentle lift of the cervical spine. This will be enough sensation for their backs. So this is the first place to stop. Further to this, asking your students to place their forearms out in front of them, parallel and shoulder distance apart. This will naturally involve lifting the chin and chest a little higher off the floor. Again, let your students see if that's enough for them today. You are deepening the back bend. To carry on, bring the forearms a little closer to the body. Elbows might stack underneath the shoulders. Rolling the shoulders down the back, lifting the chest, and here you have more of your front body away from the mat and starting to create more length and more space, especially around that solar plexus region. Further to this, hands spread wide into the corners of your mat, and then lengthening the arms. So now the majority of the front of your torso is off the floor. Just your pubic bone is resting to the mat. Elbows are soft, so you're not locking out the arms. And this is seal pose. Shoulders relaxed, collarbones wide, gaze looking directly forwards, not too high, not too low. So this would be a much deeper back bend, and it's not for everybody to hold for time, but it is a great way to stimulate that solar plexus chakra for those looking for that option. A few variations. One that I really love is to slide a bolster underneath the rib cage so that the weight of your torso is actually resting into the bolster, and then your forearms and shoulders are not having to do so much work. That's one option. Another great option, with or without the bolster under the chest, would be to float the feet and shins away from the floor, just keeping the thighs heavy to the mat without engaging the glute muscles. This can add more compression to the back bend. So again, not for everybody, but for some, this could feel like a really nice option. Okay, so there is your Sphinx pose. Obviously, being Yin Poses, you would want to hold these shapes for time while also giving your students lots of opportunity to come out of the pose if they need to, or make adjustments to the pose as they stay for time. The second pose I wanted to show you for the solar plexus is Hero Pose. Now, this one is not for everybody's knees, or ankles. So there are some variations you can do for this. But again, this is a great way to create space and length in the front of the body to kind of add more breath, more prana, more life force into the solar plexus region if it is feeling out of balance. So for this pose, I'm going to bring in some props because for most people, lying directly down on the floor is not available. But I will also show you that version in case you have students in your practice that are wanting to do that. So to come into the pose, you would be on your hands and knees, and then you're going to shuffle your knees a little bit wider so they're at least hip distance apart. And then you're going to start to sit and sink your pelvis into the space between your two heels. So your two heels are touching the sides of your legs. Now already this won't be comfortable for some students. So if that's the case, they might choose to sit on one block or two blocks, and they'll feel potentially a big stretch in the fronts and tops of the thighs and around the tops of the knees, always checking in that nothing is painful. For some students, they're going to stay here. If they have one leg or other that is just really not happy in this position, they could always extend that leg forwards and just work with this pose with the one leg bent. If both legs are causing them discomfort, then as we get deeper into the pose, you could also have both legs long in front, because the focus is for this one on those front lines of the torso and less into the legs. So there's a few options right there. If your students are comfortable with their pelvis to the floor, they have the option to walk their hands onto the floor behind them, so their fingers are pointing in the same direction as their toes, and starting to lean back into the pose a little more just to assess how that feels. If everything feels good, maybe they come down onto their forearms. As long as they can keep their kneecaps on the floor. If the knees start to lift away from the floor, then they'll need to come out of that, the last thing they just did. Further to this is coming all the way down onto the back, either with the hands resting on the belly, the ribs, or maybe taking the arms all the way up and overhead. So this shape is going to perhaps create a deep compression in the lower back and compression around the knees and ankles. So those are all things to be careful of as you share this shape with your students. But as you can see, it's creating this lovely big spaciousness in the front of the torso. If that option is just a little bit too deep, but students do want to come a little bit further into the pose, you could place a block and a bolster behind you, so your body is on a little more of an incline. And from there, with the bolster close to the back of the pelvis, your students could come down onto the bolster and relax the head to that support as well. And this might be the just right place for them to stay for time. If students are preferring to do this with their legs in front of them, if the lower part of the body piece does not feel quite right, then they can absolutely do this shape with their legs long. So back of the pelvis to the bolster, lying down as they are, relaxing the back of the head, and then legs could be nice and long and wide. Arms could be nice and wide. Again, you're getting that beautiful spaciousness across the chest and torso to support this pose and to support the solar plexus chakra. And then the final option, so we only have time to give you a few asana shapes for each chakra, but the third one I want to share with you for the solar plexus is straddle. So for this one, option to sit on a bolster or block just to elevate the hips, and then start to widen the legs into a V shape, into a comfortable V shape for you. If you are sitting on a prop, sit right on the edge of that prop so your pelvis starts to tilt in a forwards direction. That way you'll know that you're sitting nice and tall and you're starting to lean in the direction we want to go. If hamstrings are tight, you could always slide extra blocks underneath the knees for a bit of softening, and your fingertips are in front of you. So here we're thinking about good posture, length in the side body, because the solar plexus isn't just stimulated right in that center here. It's going to be wrapped around the sides of the waist and into the middle of the back. It's this entire area of the body. So feel free to explore sitting tall, maybe hinging forwards, or perhaps coming into some side body stretches. You could even take some variations with top hand behind the head, and then maybe a little more opening of the chest to the sky, looking up at your top elbow might feel nice. Or exhaling to bring top elbow towards opposite thigh, a little rounding of the back. Those can be some nice options for stimulating solar plexus. Okay, heart chakra. We got to move a bit quicker. So heart chakra will do the same thing. So firstly, let's talk about the aromatherapy options. If you're using aromatherapy in this class, think about tones and notes that are feminine and floral and sweet. The heart chakra is the home of our love, our compassion, our kindness. And so, think about those beautiful feminine qualities. So a few oils that I use that really resonate are rose and jasmine. So rose is beautiful because it is very floral and feminine. It has an awakening capacity for unconditional love, for self-compassion, for self-nurturing. And rose has the highest spiritual frequency of any of the essential oils. It is also very expensive to buy pure rose essential oil. So be very mindful of that if it is something you're wanting to share with your students. Another one I love to use is jasmine. It's got that kind of warm summer night smell. And jasmine is very rich, it's floral again, it has a very sweet aroma, and it's a symbol of hope, happiness, and love in many spiritual traditions. And it's also known as the Queen of the Night. It's very uplifting, it's balancing, and it may also help to soothe the nervous system. Asana for the heart chakra in terms of yin asana that are going to help to stimulate the heart chakra would be shapes that, of course, create space in the lungs and the chest and the shoulders. So a few options I'm going to demonstrate with you. The first one is a lovely puppy pose. Many of you know this shape. You'd be on your hands and knees and perhaps cushioning the knees if there's sensitivity. Toes can be tucked or untucked, and then the hands walk nice and wide on the mat. Keep the pelvis high, draw the belly button towards the spine, and begin to sink the chest down to the floor. Forehead can rest on the floor, or chin can rest on the floor, or you could bring a block into that space if your head doesn't quite reach. If this shape feels too much on the shoulders, then encourage your students to bend the elbows some more, so the arms aren't so long and more of the forearms are resting on the mat. This is a great place to expand breath into the upper chest, into the lungs and rib cage. It's also a great counter pose for the work we do at our desks, when we're driving, when we're eating. Generally, a lot of our activities are more rounded and forward folding. So all of these asana are great for helping with our posture and alignment and keeping our spine healthy. So that's puppy pose. Another shape that would be very beautiful for the heart space is a supported butterfly pose. I'm going to show you a slightly different way to place the props than I did in hero pose, but know that putting the props as they were in hero pose is also really great, especially for people with some back sensitivities. They might not want to take this other option or two that I'm going to show. So the option I showed in Hero was the block, and then the bolster. Pelvis stays on the floor, spine long across the bolster, and then back of the head slightly raised. If the back just does not feel good in any of these inclined, reclined poses, then please tell your students to lie directly on the floor, no problem. Second option for this supported butterfly would be 2 blocks. The blocks are a little firmer, they are a little higher, so again, be careful with any back sensitivities. But basically you would place the blocks in a T shape, like so. First block is for the back of the head, second block is for in between the shoulder blades. Some students like to have both blocks on the same height. Some students like to have the one for their head a little bit higher. You want to make sure that your student's head and neck is comfortable. So if you notice that your student's head is tilting back too far, then that might mean that they need to change the height of the block for their head. Equally, if their chin is tucked in too tight to their chest, then you might need to lower the block behind the head a height. Basically, you want the neck to feel long and even on all sides. I'll show you this one, and then I'll show you one more option for this. So this is supported butterfly pose with blocks. You're going to put the forearms down first, find that first block, and place it directly in between your shoulder blades, so no lower than that. Find the second block for the back of the head. And then soles of the feet come together, knees wide, arms could go wide if that feels comfortable. You could also work with some shoulder mobility work here, so some lovely shoulder rolls, or hands to shoulders circling the elbows, or big circles with the arms going all the way up and all the way back, and then nice and wide. Any ways to create more space and freedom around the chest and shoulders is great for the heart chakra. So that's another option for supported butterfly. There's one more I want to show you. So this one involves your bolster and one block. So I'm going to keep one block where it is, and then I'm going to place the bolster long ways in parallel with the short edge of the mat. And this bolster is going to go underneath the shoulder blades. So this isn't for everybody's backs. Have a chip foam block to hand just in case. I'll show you why in a moment. So for this one, you're coming down. You're placing the bolster just underneath your shoulder blades, and then you can have the back of the head resting on a prop, or the back of the head resting to the floor, which personally I prefer. If you find that your students have some lower back sensitivity here and it feels too deep, that is where your chip foam block can be really handy. So you can put the chip foam block under the pelvis, and then soles of the feet together. Arms can be wide. Here you are in your butterfly pose with a slightly different expression. And feel free to play with this bolster. So for me, I kind of want it a little bit higher up on my shoulders. That feels really good. That feels like it's targeting directly into the sternum. So there is your supported butterfly pose to support and expand the heart chakra. The final option for Yin asana that I'm going to share with you today for this space is a beautiful reclined twist. So for this, you would be directly on your back. There's many options for twists, of course, and you could choose any twist variation that feels good for your practice. I'm going to take you through one with the feet wide, both knees softening over to the right side, nice and heavy, and adding props under the knees if needed. Option to cross your right ankle to the left thigh. to perhaps give a little more length and space to the fronts of the hips, being mindful that this feels okay around the joints. And then for the upper body, which is the focus, hands can be on the chest, or maybe on the rib cage, or on the lower belly or hips, or arms can expand across the floor, palms facing up, maybe looking up, or maybe turning your head to the left in the opposite direction to the knees. So this shape is a great way to breathe life into the heart space. The heart is expanding, the shoulders are relaxing into the floor. You can really start to close the eyes and just concentrate on breath traveling in and out through the nose, as long and deep and full as it can be, starting to penetrate and stimulate that heart chakra. And of course, any twist you do one side, you would always repeat to the other side. And that's it. That's all we have time for. I hope this has been beneficial. I will do a part 3 to finish off this chakra series. There are many other yin asana, of course, that you could use to complement the chakras. So if you have any questions or queries or want to check in and ask about certain asana or ask about certain essential oils as to whether they wouldn't complement the chakras we've talked about today, then please send me a comment and I would love to chat with you further. Okay, I will see you on the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe. Take care. Bye.